germane to the samples that he brought.
I don't know if I missed it, but it seemed that every one of the ones you showed, you kind of had a little adjunct or prefaced it by saying it's atrocious or some other. Are you going to show us anything good?
Well,
what's the best of the best?
Yes. Okay.
And also, do you have a photo or anything of an installed example that you like?
Sure.
Okay.
And I can show you samples of 3D simulations of examples of before and after, too. Okay, here's one that's...
I think we would actually like locations as opposed to, photographs. So we can actually go out and see.
Yeah, we have locations that we can send you to. We could have a site visit. There's some out in the county, and we will forward that information to you. I don't think there's going to be necessarily... Although we have that. There we go. There we go.
Here's this is the eucalyptus tree, I believe.
Okay, you need to put it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There.
At the coroner's office.
This is the Santa Barbara County Coroner.
Correct.
Off of San Antonio.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, first one to find it.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
The installation next to the Boy Scouts is a pine tree.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one that you are aware of?
On Modoc
On Modoc.
and
I'm not sure I've
Cumbra,
seen
Las Palmas.
I might have seen pictures of it, but I haven't been to the site.
Okay, so you don't know, you don't give judgment on it.
I couldn't at this point.
Thank you.
To answer your question about what looks good, there are several manufacturers that make decent-looking branches. The three most popular companies in that regard. Oh, I'm sorry. The three most popular companies in that regard are called Celltrees, SCI, and Chameleon. The first two use PVC branches, so they can have branches that look good. I just would say that they're not going to last. Chameleon has a cast branch. They look very similar to the others. They just last longer. But the biggest deal is, again, getting the branch placement so they look good. A lot of companies literally just weld on some pipe on a tree or a pole and start putting them on. Whereas with the 3D simulation work that's available now, you can literally have it look anything you want.
Commissioner Lavoie, any questions for Commissioner Murray? Commissioner Sharp? Commissioner Boucher? Arias? I have a question. Is something like this customizable where the crotch is, where it bifurcates, or is that just pretty much a standard?
It is. One of the restriction is how far the branches the trifurcation can actually extend away from itself there. The problem with this is it's kind of neat, but up close, that joint really does look. Yeah.
Even far away, that's just not the way a tree grows.
If you would look at what we'd call a mono-uke, in other words, it's just a regular pole, it actually looks a lot better, and the advantage is you can get more than one carrier on there, which is a big deal.
And I guess the next question is, are the people that are making this, do they ever look at a real tree? I mean, a pine. I'm not trying to be difficult or hard on you, but it's just, pine trees have candles on them, when they're in their growth period, and to fool my eye, that's all you'd really have to do. I mean, I would know that candle doesn't belong there at that season,
right.
But that's regardless. It would fool most people because they have different size needles on them, not all one size.
Right.
Most needles are round, not flat. There's just all those concerns, and it's just these are better than 10 years ago. These are better than 5 years ago. They're not quite there yet, and I think we need to push the industry there a little further. Oh, I beg your pardon. Oh, I'm surprised Commissioner Arias didn't bring it up. Okay.
No, that was the question. Can they be better?
Can they be, yeah.
And the answer is yes. If you push us.
And you put Christmas lights. Some of the season.
I think that would be a security concern.
Okay, so we'll move into comments. Commissioner Schallenberger, did you have any comments there that you wanted to add? Okay.
Mr. Sudi, I think this was beneficial just to get some of the materials out for your consideration. I think it'd be appropriate now to move on to the actual project, to look at the location. And then maybe if you have additional questions after that, we could bring up the samples to see if you...
I'd like to make a comment in general.
Yeah, I would like to
any
hear.
site, actually. It's the new car game. Drive down the road and look for the fake tree anywhere in California, and you can spot them. And if you can't spot them when the week they're put in, 2 weeks later when they've faded, pretty easy. I've seen the palm trees with all of the branches blown off and the stump is sitting there. You know, it'd be a lot better effort to make the towers look like a piece of modern design, nice and clean, without a lot of boxes and wires showing. Just something innocuous and clean, nice design. Be much more inconspicuous than anything fake.
This is almost trying to gild the lily, is what you're saying.
It is. I mean, it's trying to disguise it, and it's just not successful.
Mr. Lavoie, I think you're correct if they stand alone, but we've seen some really good examples within a grove of trees or with where you really aren't paying attention to them. But it stand alone.
But it's interesting. If you drive down Foothill, there's an antenna sitting on top of San Antonio Creek Road,
right
up top of the hill, and you sort of notice it once and you don't notice it again. The new antenna by the coroner's office, you sort of like, oh, there it is, every time you drive down Foothill Road. Which I do frequently. I live pretty close to there. So to me, it's rather, I mean, and we sort of have telephone poles all over the place, and we sort of ignore them most of the time because they're just part of roadside scenery. I mean, it's sort of like, remember when we were trying to disguise those security lights on Safeway and we ended up putting the little scrolly ruff around them? And it's like called attention to it. I called attention to it. It made it, you know, it was sort of like what we were thinking of at that point. And this is a similar sort of thing. I think it's, you know, it'd be lovely if they were Hispanic, but maybe not. But I think something innocuous is better than something fake.
May I respond at all to that?
No. Well, yeah, and we're going to wrap this up, though, and move on to the next item, which is the actual, you know, application. So,
can I just,
yeah, 1 minute response.
The reality is that what drives the need for these antennas is the industry needing cell phones. And the carriers have to make it work with certain kinds of antennas. And for that to work, they have to have what's called a diversified array. They have to have those antennas as far apart as possible. So to do that, when you have a 12-foot face and create some sort of structure around it that's going to be a monolithic design actually becomes very obtrusive and incredibly expensive.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about this big monolith, but something that has the arm sticking out and the antenna screens on it. But keep it clean. No boxes attached, no wires sort of dangling
That's
in
impossible.
space.
All those boxes are required for the antennas to work.
No. I mean, like attachment J boxes. I understand the antenna box.
Lamp with a lampshade?
Yeah. Well, no, not even. No, I mean, you know, if you were to take the form that holds them and make it a nice piece of design, and then just have this very simple rectangle on the outside, it'd be much less intrusive than something that's cluttered.
They've tried to do that, but it actually becomes more obnoxious than the regular monopole itself.
Okay.
So
well, we're going to leave it at that then,
fine.
and we're going to go on to.
Should I leave these up here?
Yeah, please. We're going to go on to item number 4, which is 900 Channel Drive, and this is comments only. The project requires environmental assessment and planning commission review. And this is a proposal for the installation of a new wireless communications facility consisting of 9 panel cellular antennas on a new 58-foot tall tower pole structure concealed as an artificial pine.
Right next to the city landmark.
I'm getting there. And new ground-mounted equipment in a 700 square foot walled enclosure. An alternative design would be to conceal the tower as an artificial eucalyptus tree. This is within about 300 feet of a city landmark, the Charles Caldwell Park watering trough and fountain.
And it's very near the Clark Estate.
And it's also near the Clark Estate, the Santa Barbara Cemetery, the Bird Refuge, the museum. So,
Yes.
introduce yourself for the record, please, and
Good evening. My name is Tricia Knight, representing Verizon Wireless.
welcome.
Thank you. Let's see, just to kind of, I'm sure you've all looked at the site plans, but I'm just going to open up so we can all sort of orient ourselves here. Here you have Cabrillo Boulevard. You have Highway 10. I'm sorry, this is backward. Channel Island Drive. Cabrillo Boulevard over here. The highway is here. It's a triangular piece of property that is currently vacant. There is a row of eucalyptus trees all along this frontage on Channel Drive, and then there's a row of eucalyptus trees all along the freeway side. The designated historic resource is my understanding, and maybe you obviously probably know, but I was just talking to the planner, was actually a watering trough that was at the intersection of Cabrillo Boulevard and Channel Drive. Our proposed project would be in the back corner, so cemetery is here, bird refuge over here, would be in the back corner tucked in amongst the existing trees. I'll pass around some photo simulations that show the proposal. It shows where the vantage points were taken, so you can kind of see where we were standing when we took those photos. And then I'll pass around first what we had proposed with the pine tree. And then I'll go around with the eucalyptus. There we go. So as it's proposed now, we would be, as I said, tucked in those existing trees. As you're driving on Cabrillo Boulevard the next time, or actually anywhere in the vicinity, it works well for a faux tree, and the reasoning is that we've got an entire row of eucalyptus along the highway. So anyone that's on Highway 101, if you try to look over at this triangle in this corner, you're going to have a very difficult time seeing it at all. Cabrillo Boulevard, once again, there are trees lining here, and as you know, the freeway dips down. So the really only vantage point, as you can see from the vantage points in the photos that were taken, is really from over here on Channel Drive and actually in the cemetery itself. So faux trees work well around and tucked into other trees, which is why we chose this location. And I'm just going to take questions. I'm sure you have some.
Just real quick, S marks the spot.
S, yes, correct. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah, Commissioner Lavoie.
Where's the nearest pine tree?
The nearest pine tree, if you look in, and I'll pass this around too from a distant view, I'll put this in the middle for right now, there is a pine tree over at the end of the park. So you'll see it kind of, there's different trees that dot.
What type of pine tree? Isn't it a cypress? I
I am not sure. I will have to go back and verify
there
that.
are cypress in that neighborhood.
With the eucalyptus in the area, we were more thinking that a eucalyptus would be appropriate here. I know you saw the pictures of the one at the corners. Thank you. And as you look at the tree line and the photos that are there, you can kind of see that it kind of sticks out. Like you said, it's right over that window. She could point it out right away. Where here we've got several tall eucalyptus trees that are sort of prime spot for something like this, let alone that it's not something, if anyone's walking along Channel Drive, next time you're walking down, this is going to be not directly, but slightly inward behind these other trees. So it's going to be very well screened, which is what we look for when we're going to do a faux tree, is you don't want it sticking out like a sore thumb. You really want it to kind of blend into a real tree landscape.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Sorry, can I just get oriented here, because there's a little bit of a problem with the
Sure.
where S marks the spot and where these views are taken. View 2 shows the tree to the right of the
Do you
road.
have...
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
View 2 shows the tree, if I'm looking at View 2, not at the map.
Okay, got it.
The tree
Okay.
would
I
be
need
to the
to have
right
that
of
on
the
Oh, sure,
road.
sure, sure.
but on the map, it shows it to the left of the road, looking down the road.
Oh, he has the only map.
Can you pass that map down here, Mr. Schomburg?
So I just want to know where is it going to be, and it doesn't necessarily affect the review here.
Sure.
We just need to get oriented.
Sure. Okay, so S marks the spot here. The 1, 2, and 3 is where I was standing when I took the photos.
Well, but it can't be. See, the tree you're showing me is over here. That would be over there. If you're looking down that road, the cemetery
I'm standing
road.
in the cemetery looking
Here.
towards the site, correct.
But look, you see the road. You're looking down that road.
This is actually the road in the cemetery itself.
Right, it's this road.
Right.
So the tree is over there, not over there. The tree would be over here for your map.
Okay,
Well,
then maybe this
It
is...
lines up with the curb, more or less, which is this left-hand curve here. So it's more here than there. But
It would be, I mean,
So
would be over
maybe
there.
this is a little, maybe this is a little off, and I apologize for that. So maybe it would be closer to here if it's lining up with the curb. But you're still seeing the tree line that I'm trying to show you here. So maybe this is a little off. I apologize for that.
okay, so, and then on the site map, is it that location the same as the site survey?
So here
And
here
the
and
road
here.
to the cemetery?
is up over here. We didn't survey that. It's on a separate
Channel
parcel.
Drive.
Channel Drive, correct. Correct, right here.
This is an example.
Which one is that? That's view number 5?
That one is view number 3, and that is here. So that's, I'm standing at the
Okay.
curve here, looking over this way.
Okay, and it's really a little bit further
Yeah,
over here.
you're right.
But, yeah.
You are right. I apologize for that.
Okay, any other questions, Commissioner LaVoy? Commissioner Sharp, or Murray?
No,
Commissioner Sharp, any questions?
Can I make a few more comments? Or?
Oh, I'm sorry, I
No,
thought
no,
you
it's
were
okay.
done.
I
I
just
beg your
wanted to give some comments to the previous presentation. Rink did a great job. I was born here, and now I live and work in San Luis Obispo County, and they've been fine-tuning their conditions for their trees. How do you ensure that if you were to choose to approve this project, and it leaves the door, and it goes out to a building permit, and then it goes to a contractor, that you're going to get what you were hoping for, and that you approved, not that you're hoping for. And what we've done is come up with some pretty rock-hard conditions. Number one, the county has come up with conditions that basically indicate that there are certain design guidelines, whether it be for eucalyptus or otherwise, that the 3D modeling that Rink was referring to is key, because that way you can see how the branches are going to be placed, how the antennas are going to be screened, the colors, the textures, and all of the things that he presented to you, as well as the attachment detail and all of that. Number two is the color is going to be key. You know, this eucalyptus may not match the examples that he brought you here tonight. You don't want, just because it's a eucalyptus, it has to be one that actually matches the eucalyptus in the area. Color is another thing. We don't want the chalky leaf pattern if something is different on site. And then thirdly is that if it doesn't, even if they build it 100% and it doesn't look like it was supposed to and what was approved, they have to make that so. And the county is actually going back, and carriers are having to pretty much start over until they get it right. We have examples of good trees. If you drive by Tucker's Grove Park, take a look. You're going to see a Verizon tree that looks beautiful, and then right next door AT&T was not paying attention. And so they're going to have to fix that tree. And so those are some of the conditions that the county has used to sort of make sure that once they approve a project that they're getting what they approved. And so that was sort
Thank
of the
you.
last comment. You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. Sorry I cut you off.
No, it's okay.
Commissioner Sharp, did you have any questions?
One question: Have you made a presentation to the Montecito Association?
Oh, excuse me. No, I have not done that yet.
I know this is probably in the city, but
It would be in their sphere. Okay. Okay.
before you go too much further.
Okay.
And Commissioner Boucher, any questions?
No.
Commissioner Rios, any questions?
Question, is it a Verizon or a tree that's in the Boy Scout?
Yes, that is a Verizon tree. Is that a tree that you've driven by and have observed before, or twice a day? Yeah.
For 23 years.
Branches are falling off.
That is, ironically enough, we're working with the county right now. So they're going back. Megan Lowry, I don't know if you know who that is, but she works with the telecom division in Santa Barbara County. She's going back and she's doing the compliance on everything. And if she goes back and sees a blue tree, they don't have to take the whole tree down, but it's time for a facelift. And there's companies out there that do that, and it's doable. So
And that's interesting. We have cosmetic surgery.
We do for the trees.
For humans, and now we have cosmetic. Anyway, I need to open public comment.
Okay.
And I have one speaker slip, request to speak, and that is Mr. Kellum DeForest. Mr. DeForest, you have the floor.
Thank you. A phony tree is a phony tree. I think, I don't know where the EPV ends, the Cabrillo Boulevard EPV ends. I know no plastic in the EPV, but this may not quite be in the EPV, I don't know. But I mean, the tree next to the Coroner's building out there on Foothill, boy, you could tell it's fake from a mile away. Or maybe not quite a mile away, but you certainly can tell it's fake. So I wonder if Verizon could, Verizon could provide another scheme if they have to have a tower at this site.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for comments. Mr. Schallenberger. I don't have any comments. Mr. Lavoie.
No plastic in the district.
Your microphone was off.
No plastic in the district.
Commissioner Murray.
I'm so sorry. I just cannot support the project. It's too close to all of the historic site, and Channel Drive. That view there is way more important than in front of the freeway. I do not know if any of these things can be mounted in the actual trees themselves. I don't know, but I just cannot support the proposal. Sorry.
Commissioner Sharp.
Trees getting in the way here. I can't support it. I can't imagine Montecito and Santa Barbara approving any fake trees at all.
Commissioner Boucher.
I agree with those comments.
Okay. Commissioner Arias.
I agree, unfortunately. I understand the necessity, and I would hope that you find another location.
can I ask a question? Or
No.
is that inappropriate? Okay.
And I'll weigh in. When I first saw the agenda item, I cringed and said, this isn't even going to happen. But I came with an open mind, and I am more in support of this than I was when I read the agenda item. You're almost there with the technology of the tree material, but you're not there. And so I can't support it at this time. It needs some it needs to be in the oven a little bit longer. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
We are not making a motion, so if she wanted to respond, I'm going to let her respond, and then
Well,
I'm going to...
Let me just, before you complete
go
your
ahead.
comments, I think you need to understand that your comments are to be directed to the Planning Commission, and so you don't necessarily jump to a denial on this type of application.
Right.
It's a coastal development permit and a conditional use permit. So that the reason we asked the Planning Commission to stick around is it may likely go there. And this applicant would also weigh in whether there is support, because the Planning Commission would have to listen to your comments, just like any other project, and understand your concerns. So if you could expand on why you think this alternative design is not appropriate, if it's very clear to them with your comments. And this applicant also would probably like to see direction as to whether there are alternatives that you might consider, so we don't spend time with other alternatives
And
that might not have
my
support.
first question to that end, and sorry to interrupt you, but is this an EPV?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's
So
a
then
parcel
I think
fronting
Commissioner
East
Lavoie's
Cabrillo
comment
Boulevard.
that no plastic is allowed in EPV is the comment that we need to send to the Planning Commission.
Well, it's
That's the one.
I think if I may, it's pretty simplistic to say it that way. I think the faux material, if you can't tell, it's and that's the issue. If you want to say you can tell it's plastic, is really the issue.
I was just trying to keep it simple. Yes, Commissioner Schallenberger.
I would just suggest that our comments to Planning Commission, obviously it would have to be formed in the language of not compatible with the guidelines, and probably some of the project compatibility analysis as well, not compatible with the architectural character of the city and neighborhood,
Historic resources.
sensitivity to adjacent landmarks. I mean, we can summarize the comments to that effect, but I think maybe those three items, in effect, would essentially give the Planning Commission the gist.
Okay. Did staff get enough of that? Or would you like it to be paraphrased again?
So it's only three things that are of concern, right?
Yeah. Commissioner Schallenberger, I'm going to let you summarize, if you could do it succinctly for staff.
The Commission's concerns are that the proposed design is not compatible with the guidelines as set forth, the EPV guidelines. It's not compatible with the architectural character of the neighborhood, and it's not sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources.
Perfect. Is that good for staff? Is that good for Mr. Limon?
And some direction of the applicant as to whether or not we can expand on whether you would consider other alternatives, or I heard Mr. Lavoie mention make it look like a tower maybe, and would a tower be supported in a design here, or is a tower going to be problematic?
What's the height of this? 50 centimeters?
Yeah. Let me ask the question. There's a telephone pole here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that mountable? Can you mount on that telephone pole?
Is it appropriate to?
Yes.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Wasn't
you
sure.
for being cautious of that. But I mean, it looks like it's high voltage, so I doubt it is. But
Well,
I
it
have
might
that
be a
question.
consideration, and here's my question to you, and you sort of hinted towards this, was that you don't want it to be what it's not, meaning that
Right.
we're making it look like a tree when it's really not a tree. Would it be an option for me to come back to you? One thing that we've done successfully in the past is to either look at existing utility poles or nestling a pole painted brown with flush-mounted antennas in those trees, and you will never see it. We might have to go with fewer antennas, smaller antennas.
That's my preference. Make it as innocuous as possible.
with what's already there without adding a lot of mass to the property or...
And I
Exactly.
agree with that. I think,
Okay.
you know, if there are existing telephone poles in the area,
Okay.
you know, what's one more telephone pole
and
really?
especially if it's totally screened in these trees.
Let me. So I don't know the way the rest of the commission feels, but
Okay.
to answer your question, Mr. Limon, I think we've given the applicant direction that yes, we would entertain another mounting option. Is that?
I just want to add that when you do that, you must read our guidelines, because it's not just whether it's going to disappear. Materials are important, you know. So and height, all those things. You know, what Mr. Schallenberger said was the character, and so you need to think of that character of that neighborhood,
The
and,
context.
and design it to be appropriate.
Okay, Mr. Schallenberger, last comment for the.
I would wonder, maybe Verizon has some examples of maybe like Carmel or Big Sur or other towns that where architectural character is
Paramount.
considered and paramount, or I mean, maybe there's other examples that can be brought.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think the commission will keep an open mind, but this is not appropriate for this location.
We'd also like them to explore the possibility of another location.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
There you have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
And with that,
Is it just
that
indefinitely?
ends our regular agenda, but I
No.
do need to approve the minutes.
Is it just indefinitely continued?
Well, it's going to the planning commission.
Yeah. So I
So-
won't come back with
So we
any
need a
motion?
motion to continue
Okay.
it indefinitely.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So it was made by Sharp, seconded by Boucher. Minutes.
Mr. Sheriff?
Yes.
I had time to read the minutes, and I will not
Okay.
vote for this.
Okay. Then I need to ask staff what's appropriate, because you need to publish the minutes, and if we wait 2 weeks for comments on the minutes, what?
They have been published as draft.
And that's enough. You don't need our motion before the next meeting. No.
It has occurred in the past where for some reason we weren't able to provide you with the draft minutes, and we postponed it to the next meeting, so it actually went out 4 weeks.
Okay, so we can do that. Okay, I didn't know.
But I do
Okay.
need a motion.
So do I hear a motion for postponement of approval of the minutes of the July 6th meeting? Was it 7th?
So did none of you get a chance to review them at all?
I looked at them for maybe 3 minutes.
Oh, no. Okay.
So we have a motion by Schallenberger and a second by Sharp.
Well, we have to take all of this time with it.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Now.